Hi, third graders. It's Mrs. Linderman. We're going to revisit the text from the last couple of days called The Moon Seems to Change. And we've been talking about main idea with nonfiction or informational text. And then we also talked about text features, those things in an informational story that kind of draw our attention and help us learn a little bit. So today we're actually going to focus on the text feature that is called illustrations. And illustrations are the drawings, not a photograph, but they're drawings that are in a story. And we know that those illustrations actually can show us and they can add information to help learners understand what they're reading. So they're there for a reason. There's a purpose that all those illustrations are in this particular story. So we're going to look back and kind of talk about how do I use the pictures, the illustrations in a story to help me understand or to figure out what's happening in the story. So we're going to actually look today on page 44 we're going to go to. Okay, and I want you just to take a peek at that. You probably remember reading it. There was a lot of information in here. Here's an illustration that shows the Earth and the moon and how the moon travels around the Earth. Down here it shows a waxing moon. So that's going from a sliver all the way up to a full moon. This is a waning moon. So starting with that full moon and getting smaller into that crescent moon. Okay, and so on this page, I want to kind of focus on how this two rows here of illustrations show us some information about the moon. So let's look at the one on the waxing moon. So when it goes from that crescent moon, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's a full moon. So let's reread this page. Okay, so it really doesn't. It seems to change because the moon goes around the Earth. As it goes around, we see more of it. The moon gets bigger. It is a waxing moon. Or we see less of it. The moon gets smaller. It is a waning moon. Now, if somebody just told you that information, that would be a little confusing. But here, they show you this is what a waxing moon does, right? It gets bigger. Or it's what we see, I should say. Here, a waning moon, we see less of it. So it appears, to change, to be smaller. It's not changing at all. It's just what we're seeing. We're seeing more of it when it's a waxing moon, less of it when it's a waning moon. So combining the words on the page that we're reading along with the illustrations can help us to understand. So I'm going to take that question that I just asked you. How does this row of illustrations show what a waxing moon looks like? Right? The illustrations show the moon changing, like I said, from a crescent moon up to a full moon. So I'm going to take my chart here, and I wrote my question right in the center. This is what I want to try to figure out. How do illustrations show what a waxing moon looks like? Okay, here are our illustrations right here. I want you to be thinking, what does it show us? Well, it shows us, the moon from crescent to full. That's what the illustration shows us about a waxing moon. So I'm going to write that up here. Illustrations, and that's a big fancy word, isn't it? Illustrations show the moon from crescent to full. Right? There's the proof right there. They help us visualize what that looks like. What else? Tell me a little bit more about the illustrations in this row right here. What's happening to the moon? What's it actually appearing to do? It's not really doing this, but it looks like it is. Can you think about what I'm trying to get you to say? You're right. The moon gets bigger, right? Does it really get bigger? No, it doesn't really get bigger. We just see more of it. So I'm going to put that in quotes. Have you ever seen that? Someone will say the moon gets bigger. It really doesn't. right? And we know that from our reading and from the illustrations. Think about, what else do you learn from this particular row of pictures? Look at this. It says waxing moon, but I see an arrow and it's pointing in a certain direction. This is what happens, right? It starts out like this, and then it appears to be changing because we're seeing more of it. So I think even this arrow is helping us because it's showing us the direction of what's happening, right? First and then next, all the way up until that full moon. So I'm going to write down here the arrow, because that's part of the illustration, right? The arrow, it's really like a caption for that picture. The arrow caption shows us direction. So when I'm reading a story, nonfiction story, informational story, those things mean the same thing, right? We're getting information and it's real stuff. It's not pretend. I have to use the words for sure. I have to read the words, but these illustrations are in the story to help me understand, right? If they weren't there, I probably would be a lot more confused. So just by asking myself a question, well, how do these illustrations show what a waning moon looks like or a waxing moon looks like, right? If I look at the illustrations along with the questions I'm asking myself, it's going to help me understand the text more. It's not enough to just look at the pictures. It's not enough just to read the words. You have to use them together. That's why they're there. They have a purpose, right? They're showing us information that we might not be able to understand without some of these pictures. A day on the moon is almost a month long, okay? And it's showing us what it's like on the moon compared to what a day on Earth is like. A day on Earth says 24 hours, and it shows us what happens throughout the day. Here it shows us what happens on the moon. So it's comparing these two things. It's not enough, like I said, to just read the words. You have to have the illustrations along with the words that can help you understand what's happening in the story. So illustrations are a very important part of the text features because they help those readers, like you and me, understand what's happening in the informational story.